Hey everybody, welcome to day one, Breakfast with Bob from beautiful Šamorín, the Challenge Championship. My name is Bob Babbitt, brought to you by Master Spas, HOKA, Fly Human Fly, deboer wetsuits, the Outrigger Kona Resort and Spa, and of course our Challenge Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, Kieran Lindars. He took 8th in Kona last year, and the splits still blow me away. 47-12, 408-28, 251-49, 751-55. I don't know how many people he had under 8 hours in Kona last year, but it was nutty. How you doing, Kieran?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, thank you. It's really good to be here.
A pleasure to have you here. Now, have you done? You DNF'd here last year, right?
Yes.
Was that the first time you came?
No, so I came here the year before.
Oh, 23.
And finished in
eighth place.
position.
Yes.
Yeah, and then last year, there were a few things early in the season that I had not quite worked out, and I was also still suffering a little bit from bad finish from the previous year. So I was trying to get my body back in shape, and I came here, and as you know, it's one of the strongest races that assembles the Challenge Champ. So I came in here, there was a group of 12 in the front pack, and I was kind of put in this decision of, well, I either let this go or I'm not racing anymore. So this was the first race that I was a part of where I was trying to race, but probably didn't have
quite the fitness, racing fitness.
Didn't have the fitness to match the guys that were in the race. So I tried to go with it and just couldn't handle it. I just totally blew up, which was good because it showed me what I needed to do.
Exactly.
But it was also important to be like, I stuck with them for a little bit, and it was the first signs of being able to race with these top guys. And kind of showing me what I needed to be able to do in order to be like one of them.
Well, and so you come off of that, and then you go to Challenge Wales and get 5th there. But the race that really hit me was Frankfurt.
Yes.
When you go to Frankfurt and get 2nd and 46-29, 403-26, 237-05, 732. Did you surprise yourself with that?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think, like I said, it gave me confidence this race, but obviously it was clear that there was things that needed to be changed.
Right.
I made some changes.
What changes? What did you do?
Just things in nutrition, just my ability to take on more carbs per hour, having a bit more depth behind me. So not just being able to get through, say, the swim, it was being able to get through the swim and going to the next thing strong. And also just getting a little bit more racecraft in individual discipline. So I was doing some individual run racing, cycle racing, swim racing. And when you race in those individual elements and you're up against people that purely train those one elements, you are forced to go to a level that's kind of beyond what we do in triathlon. Like, we're very good, don't get me wrong, but when you're thrown amongst the pure sports, they show you how to do things properly. And I took what I learned into Wales, saw what worked, saw what didn't work, and then I took it to Frankfurt, and the result was a big shock to everyone. But it was a gradual process from being totally dropped from a race to being one of the ones that was dropping. So it was a big shock. I was trying to go for, originally it was 6 slots and 18 had already qualified. So I went into the race being, well, if I can come top 24, I have a Kona slot. But as we all saw, the slots went in the top 10. So, but luckily I was in the shape that day to be able to secure that slot.
That's awesome. And we were just chatting, like last year when I was doing research before the race for Kona, and I'm looking at splits like yours from Frankfurt and going, I don't even know this guy. And he's killing it out there. And there's Menno Koolhaas. And out of the top 16 folks, we interviewed, I think, 15 of them, but a number of them were people we didn't know. And it just seems like nobody is intimidated, starting at a young age, coming into this sport at the longer distance and going, there's no reason I can't be up here. I know I'm looking at the stats. I know what power I'm pushing. There really should be no surprises here. I can do this.
Yeah, I think the important thing with the new generation coming through is there's a lot more information online. There are people that have been huge names in the sport freely giving away advice, which we can follow on. There's kind of there's a guide now on how to be good. Now, how to be brilliant, that takes a bit of craft and a team around you and all the extra bits. But there's a pretty clear guide on how you can achieve these things. And I think the sport, as it's growing, it's seen now as a career, which might have not been the case, at least when I was younger.
Right.
And with the opportunities that the brands are putting on for us and the sponsors, it's meant that now people start trying to be a professional from really, really young. Whereas I feel like in previous generations, or even throughout sport, it was kind of something that you had a talent and then you found you kind of made your way and made it a career for yourself. Whereas now, because it's, the money and all the opportunities, people look at this from a very young age and go, that's what I want to be as a career, not just as a hobby. And that's pushed the sport on a huge amount, because people are really training as a professional from the get-go. It's not just, I did swimming and running and I'm going to give it a go. It's, I want to be a triathlete.
So growing up, were you swimmer, runner?
So growing up, I learned to swim as any child does. I got picked up through a competitive club, and that gave me some really good base fitness, which did me wonders for my running when I was just running for school. Similar story, got seen by one of the local teams, said, why don't you give running a go? And then it wasn't really until a few years later when my mum decided, she kind of put this idea forward that, why don't we give triathlon a go as a bit of cross-training, a bit of fitness. We'd watch some Ironmans on the
telly,
TV, and we watched some triathlon races on TV. So she said, why don't we give it a go? And I gave it a go, and very similar story. I got picked up by the regional coach, then I went through national squads, and it was by chance, there were the right people on the right day that had seen me, and I got opportunities, and I went after them, and it's kind of resulted into a hobby gone mad, really.
A hobby gone mad. And was there a thought of doing World Triathlon and trying to make the Olympics, or was it always longer distance?
So for me, it was always to be a full distance athlete. Yes. It was always that I remember watching it on the TV. I remember just being so confused at what this event was in terms of the distances. It was crazy. I remember just one Sunday morning, I don't know what event it was, but we turned on the TV and we just saw these two athletes fighting each other in the spirit of the race. And I always wanted to be a full distance athlete, and I had people that were older that had done them, and just thought it was really cool.
Well, your mom was doing it.
Yeah. So it was I always wanted to be a long course athlete, and I was picked up through the development squads. So it kind of then became a natural progression from the World Triathlon to the longer stuff. But for me, it was always trying to go to the World Champs in the long distance races. The World Triathlon to be honest, for me, it was more that you weren't allowed to do the races because I was too young.
Right.
So, but it was the natural progression. I got some results through that, but it really, my talent is in the kind of more individual, longer event.
Yeah, well, and when I'm looking at just, starting in 2020 and you challenge Daytona 41st, right? So then next thing you know, you're winning Challenge Almir, which is one of the premier events out there, and then you're getting second at Challenge Almir. So right away, in eighth here. So you're having success on some of the bigger events, some of the major events, and it seems like that a lot of that success was in that full distance.
Yes, the full distance has been my distance, and,
yes.
And then a fun fact for the audience out there is that my first ever non-drafting race was the full distance at Almir.
When you got second?
No. So the year before
you got
a couple
DNF
of years.
2021.
So that one I crashed, but the year before that was my first race, and the reason that it was Almir
sixth.
Is because my World Triathlon ranking allowed me to qualify automatically in the pro field, and provided I was 8% within the winner, I would then get my pro license. So I took a shot of just I didn't actually know that it was a full distance race. I thought it was a half.
Wait. You went to the Almir going, oh, this will be a 4-hour thing.
I knew 10 weeks out that it was a full distance race.
Oh, you did, okay.
My coach at the time was like, I'm sure it's a full distance race. So it was a bit of a
little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise. And I earned my pro license through the long course event, and if I could do them, I would probably do them the most, but they take an awful lot of mental and physical commitment, each one that you do. And what I find is that I tend to be weaker in the halves. So I learn the most from them, and then I try and translate those into, like I said, like being dropped on paper, it doesn't sound at all, but I understand why I got dropped, and everything in the 70.3 racing and the middle distance racing it's so much more intense that it shows obvious signs of weaknesses. Right. Whereas sometimes in longer events, you might suddenly feel a bit tired, but you don't necessarily know why. And you can look back and think, oh, well, it could have been this, or it could have been that I tried to do that. Or whereas in the middle distance, it's very apparent when you've made a mistake and you're having to make up for it. So you learn I tend to learn an awful lot racing the faster events.
Well, in the longer, you have time to recover.
Yes.
Everybody's going to have down times during that swim, bike, and run day. And it's a matter of, just overcoming it, right? That's sort of a little microcosm there. It's like, okay, I'm going to have low spots, and eventually I'm going to come out of it and be better. And it seems like you've been able to do that really, really well.
Yeah.
And so when you came out at Challenge Almir and you get 6th at your first long distance, and look at, again, 46-minute swim, 4:30, 2:52, 8:17. That's pretty damn impressive. Anytime someone's doing their first race and they're sub 3 hours in a marathon, I'm going, okay, that person's going to be really good at this. Because what did the legs feel like when you got off the bike?
I had a 7-minute transition where I sat. I remember it clearly. I sat in a portaloo, just head in hands. I couldn't believe that I could finish it, and I don't know how. I just remember going out in the first lap. This is where kind of the world triathlon side of me kicked in a little bit, where it's like, get through the first kilometre, get through the second kilometre. Yeah. You're still in the race. Okay, keep going. And then I noticed that I'd gone through the whole day. I had a good swim, but I'd gone through the bike and just people coming past me. So I think in that instance, it was that I had paced it badly and I actually wasn't strong enough.
Right.
And it wasn't until I kind of found myself on the run back to more kind of confident area where, well, triathlon, it's more run focused than bike focused.
Absolutely.
I started realizing that actually now I was starting to retake those that had taken me earlier in the race. And then you start gaining a little bit of confidence from, I had lack of confidence because I'd never done it before. And I thought, therefore, because I was losing time, I wasn't good enough, or I didn't have as. Whereas when I started then retaking those people, it was actually, I've got my plan has gone to plan. It's just taken a while for it to come through. And everyone's race strategy is different. And that was a thing that I had to learn with World Triathlon. It was very much, if you get dropped, race over, essentially.
Done, yeah.
And whereas this one, it was, okay, I did lose 5-10 minutes on the bike, but I then brought it back on the run. Yeah. So that's when I really found the love for the event, where it's really how you want to go about it. And the really nice thing about that first experience within Challenge Almir was I never felt like I was racing against the people that were in my race.
You're racing against yourself.
I was racing against myself, and you go past someone, they're handing you water. Oh, I've picked up this. Do you want any? And I felt like I was racing with people, and then the result at the end was just whatever it was.
Yeah, you can't control the other person's race. That's what's so wonderful about it, is when you're doing a bike race or you're doing the ITU circuit, the best person doesn't always win. Because you're in the right position out of the water, right position here. There's a lot of strategy, psychology, all that crap. In longer distance racing, it's you're only as good as you are. Nobody really controls you. You control yourself. You're racing the course, period. So you're all in it together to hopefully conquer the course.
Yeah.
And usually the course wins, anyways.
Yeah. It's a very humble. I think as well, the important thing with the challenge, and for anyone that's thinking about doing one of these events, is it is a really absurd distance to be racing. And I think, having been fortunate of having quite a sporty background and growing up, this was the first event that I ever took part in where I wasn't sure I could actually do it. And that was a really powerful thing when I finished. I genuinely believe after that race I was a different person, because how hard it is to finish. Yeah. Once you've done it, you kind of have a lot more self-belief, and you kind of almost feel like a new person.
Right.
And for anyone that's wanting to, experience a race like Challenge Almir or any of these full distance races, it really is life-changing when you go through that process going after something that you're not sure whether or not you can achieve it, and then when you do,
yes,
it just changes your life.
So my first Ironman back in 1980, I thought it was a 2-day event. I thought you swam 2.4, rode 56, camped out, and rode back the next day. So I had a pannier, sleeping bag, and tent on the bike. So when I actually finished the thing in one day, it changed my perception of me, right, and really led to my love of this sport. But it does. It's one of those things where the distances are absurd. It's ridiculous to think about doing all that in one day. But when you do it, you become a better version of yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
Forever. And you draw on it for everything else you do. So last year, you come to Kona, and you 47:12, 4:08, 2:51, 7:51, 55, 8th place, first time there, correct? Yeah, first time there. Obviously not intimidated by the day, but there's something about that place and that race that's pretty damn special.
Yeah, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
I've never. You kind of get a bit of a boiling pot, because the best of the best are there, and that goes from the age groups to the elites to the support crews to the sponsors. You have the best of the best, and it was a really unique experience being full of such like-minded people. Just everyone there. It didn't matter your background, didn't matter where you've come from or how you've got there or anything like that. All that mattered was trying to perform on the day, and it was really special to be a part of that. And I don't think actually at the time I was able to appreciate it. It was when I came back.
Yes.
And I really then thought back, and I thought, wow, that was something that I'll never ever ever forget.
So this year, DNF Ironman Texas bike crash.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I went through. I'm not 100% sure what happened, but I was going through it. We were about 150k in the bike.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were pretty much there. I was with Bakkegaard. I think Blumenfeld and the other group were a minute down the road, so they'd got some gap, but it's
something you can
fine.
make up. Yeah.
And I don't remember really what happened. All I remember was something moved fast under my wheel, and I just hit a bottle. And I'm not sure if something rolled out or I missed it, but I think it was a couple of things. Because I was grabbing a bottle while hitting a bottle that had moved that I wasn't anticipating. It just hit my front wheel and I went down, and I didn't even really see it. It was only when people had told me what had happened afterwards. So it's kind of a bit circumstantial in the sense that if I'd had both hands on the handlebar, I might have recovered it, or I would have bunny hopped it if I'd have seen it.
Right.
I'm not sure exactly what happened. But essentially I hit a bottle going through transition. It was just one of those racing situations that I'm not too sure how it happened, but it did, and it's just unfortunately just one of those things.
And in terms of injuries from it?
So we're going to see this weekend.
I was going to say, because it's your body always gets anytime you hit the ground, it's not a good thing. It's
3 weeks post crash. My body's still cut up, which people can see, but it's more kind of the swelling and things like that, which I have got myself to a point now where I'm not in pain doing any of the disciplines.
That's good.
But we need to see how the body reacts to the type of race that this will be at the week.
It's going to be fast.
It's going to be fast. And what I'm hoping for is I'm hoping that I've had enough conditioning through going to Texas. And because I didn't finish it, but I had a good race up until that point, I'm kind of hoping that allowed a training effect while I was recovering from my injuries to then go again. But the most important thing for anyone that's wondering is I am fine. It's just I was very lucky with the damage that happened to the body, and I will be fine to race. So we will see.
And more importantly, your bike's okay.
Yes. I've got some fantastic sponsors, so all of my equipment is perfect and set up, and it was all checked over, and that was kind of the big difference from last year me versus this year me. Is I've got a really supportive crew around me that take away that focus where they could check the bike, they have a look at it, they sort it out, while I can just
Focus
deal
on
with
you.
getting recovered, getting my feet up, and so I'm very, very lucky.
Love it. And so for the rest of the season, what are your plans?
So the plan has changed. It was always to do Texas Frankfurt. So I was hoping to qualify from Texas. Obviously that hasn't gone that way, so it's now relying on Frankfurt. So now it kind of really depends on how the Frankfurt goes.
Right.
Because if I don't qualify there, then I'm probably looking at Ironman Leeds. If I do qualify from there, then brilliant. Then I can do other races. I've got a couple of challenge races that I really want to do. So
Good.
it all becomes a bit of a balancing act, and it's actually quite frustrating when people ask you what you're going to do.
Because you don't know. Yeah.
Because most of the time it's like, well, it depends on this. So yeah, the priority is to be at the strongest races.
Right.
So I'm going to try my best to be competing in all of them, and it will honestly depend on how Frankfurt goes.
Love it. Thank you so much for taking time, Kieran. A pleasure to see how far you've come so quickly in this sport. How did it change your world when you get second in Frankfurt and eighth in Kona the same year?
Oh, it just changed everything. It took me so Frankfurt was going to be potentially my last race as a pro, because
Really?
Yeah, because I just couldn't
afford it.
Well, partly that, but also so to give a little bit of context, the race that I came second in Almir,
Yes.
I stumbled across the finish line. I barely made it. I had quite a lot of health implications from it, similar to what it sounds like, sort of thing that Sam Laidlow's going through. So it took me a lot of time, and I thought that potentially the body wouldn't come back. And it so happened to align with the lessons that I'd learned, the body coming back round, that then Frankfurt could happen. And then from Frankfurt and Kona, Frankfurt kind of felt like, oh, this is a fluke. And then going to Kona solidified, actually, do you know what? I can do this. And I think it's the first time where I felt like, actually, I'm no longer looking to how to get to the level. It's now changed from how do I get there every time. And that's something that I'm now trying to learn. And that's what I think makes a difference between someone that's a good athlete versus one of the greats. Every single time they race, they're in the race. And that's what I aspire to be.
Well, and expectations become a big thing. You know, after you get second in Frankfurt, people are expecting a good Kona.
Yes, yeah.
Right? I mean, I think people would have been excited if you got top 20 in Kona first time out. Right? That's fine. But the fact you got top 10 first time out, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Then people realize it's not a fluke. When you follow up Frankfurt with Kona against the best, and you get eighth, and you have that type of 251 marathon, which means next time you could run mid 240s, if not faster. So you sort of put yourself on the map that way.
Yeah, and my childhood dream was to go to a World Championships, and I was able to do that. And top 10 was beyond.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was capable of that. I thought that I was capable of qualifying for the World Championships, but I didn't think I would ever be featuring in it. I just thought I'd be someone that was,
you're a player.
So
you're it.
That's the thing now, and it's trying to learn. Okay, I've had that, and it's trying to do that every time. And the one interesting shift that's happened is, like I said about it's how to do it again. You have this, before you've done it, you question if you can do it. But then once you've had a result like that, you then get kind of the cockiness to be like, well, I know how to do it. And the winter was an interesting balancing act between, am I doing enough, or am I doing the right things? But I've already done it, so I know. And that's a really interesting balance. Again, I think to be one of the greats is not getting too comfortable with what you know or what you've learned. And I'm fortunate to have coaches around me that keep me humble, that actually are constantly learning, and they're striving to be the best that they can be, which is then challenging me all the time. And I'm really looking forward to just seeing how far I can take this year. And for me, it's a huge learning step and a huge learning curve to be able to come to every race and be competitive. And I think that's the important thing for me to learn.
Be a factor and not be afraid of the moment, and just go for it when you can. Love it. Kieran, thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Kieran Lindars has been our guest. Again, Breakfast with Bob from beautiful Šamorín. Hold on. We'll be right back.